In this video, we're going to look at the rules for multiplication and division of fractions. Contrary to what you might think, multiplying and dividing fractions is actually a little bit easier than adding and subtracting them, mostly because you don't have to worry about a lowest common denominator. Similarly to what we saw with addition and subtraction, how we handle multiplication and division is very much the same. Division usually just adds one extra step at the beginning of the question, but the rest can be handled identically. So let's look at the steps for multiplication. So the first thing we'll do is change mixed numbers to improper fractions. That's something that we've done before. And then we're going to look at reducing before we multiply. There's a bit of a technique to how that works, so we'll go through that in detail as the video goes on. And finally, we're going to match the question for either improper fractions or mixed numbers, whatever we started with. When we do division, the extra step you have to do is to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. In short, that means to flip the numerator and denominator. So why don't we need a common denominator when we do multiplication and division? Let's take a look at an illustration again. Let's pretend we have 1/2 times 1/2. Or, if you want to say it in words, it's 1/2 of 1/2. If you take half of somebody's half, that means you're cutting their half in two. So that means you're really only left with 1/4. So mathematically, that is the same thing as multiplying the tops together, 1 times 1, and multiplying the bottoms together, 2 times 2, which gives us 1/4. Maybe this case was a bit of a fluke. Let's take a look at another example. Let's take 1/2 and multiply it by 2. So 1/2 times 2, or we're getting twice of a halves, or 2 halves. If you get 2 halves, then you have the full whole, and that is going to give you 1. So let's look at what happens when we multiply across the top and across the bottom. So any whole number can be written as a fraction as long as you put it over 1. So really what we're looking at here is 1/2 times 2/1. So in the top we'll have 1 times 2, and in the bottom we have 2 times 1. That's going to give us 2/2, which of course is equal to 1. Because of the way multiplication and division works, you're actually just taking an existing piece and either multiplying it or cutting it further into smaller pieces. So for that reason, it just doesn't need a common denominator. So let's look at an example where we're multiplying 3/2 times 4/11. So let's join these together, because when we multiply, we really just multiply straight across. So we're going to get 3 times 4 in the top over 2 times 11. So this is where we're going to look at simplifying if we can. Rather than letting our numbers get big and then simplifying later, this is actually the best time to simplify. Now that everything's written with one big fraction, we just look for factors that are in common. 3 and 2 don't share any factors, 3 and 11 don't share any factors, but 4 and 2 share a factor of 2. So we can divide out both 4 and 2 by 2. So if we do that, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. There's no more common factors to share between the top and the bottom, so now we multiply out, and we get 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 times 11 is 11. So our final answer is 6/11. One really great thing about simplifying beforehand is that you don't need to simplify your final answer. If you didn't simplify as you went, then you have to make sure you simplify your final answer. Finally, 6/11 is a proper fraction, so we don't have to worry about converting it out to a mixed number or something like that. Let's look at how the division of fractions works. As I mentioned earlier, what we're going to do as our first step is take the second fraction, the 9/20, and actually flip it and write it as 20/9. So why do we do that? Well, let's go back to that previous slide where we talked about why we don't need a common denominator. Let's picture an example where we were taking 1/2 and dividing by 2. If you take someone's half and then you divide it by 2, that's doing the exact same thing as 1/2 times 1/2, isn't it? Because you're taking their half and you're dividing it further in 2. So mathematically, that matches the idea of having a division by 2 being the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, 1/2. Because 2 is actually 2/1. So when you take the reciprocal, it becomes 1/2. It's easy to see the reciprocal for a simple case, but not so easy to see it as things get more complicated. But what we want to take away from this is just to remember that if you have division, you flip the second fraction. So let's go back to our example. So we have 15/16 divided by 9/20. So the first step right away is to flip the second fraction. So that becomes 20 over 9, and we just rewrite it as a multiplication after that. From here on out, it's exactly the same as what we did before. So let's multiply tops with tops and bottoms with bottoms, just to see everything on the same fraction. And then we look for common factors. So there's quite a few here. I can see between 15 and 9, there's a common factor of 3. And 20 and 16 share a common factor of 4. So if we take the 15 and the 9 and divide those by 3, we're left with a 5 and a 3. And if we take the 20 and the 4 and divide by 4, we're left with 4 and a 5. If we look at what's left, 5 and 5 on the top and 4 and 3 on the bottom, there's no more common factors to take out. So now we're free to multiply. 5 times 5 in the top divided by 4 times 3 gives us 25 over 12. And again, since we simplified before we multiplied, our final answer is guaranteed to already be simplified. Now, we started this question with proper fractions, and now we have an improper fraction. So both a mixed number or an improper fraction could be appropriate here. Personally, I would keep 25 over 12, but if you need to see how that process works again, remember we're taking 25 and we're dividing by 12 in order to figure out what's our remainder. So 12 goes into 25 twice, which gives you 24 total. So the difference between 25 and 24 is the remainder of 1. So as a mixed number, we get 2 and 1 over 12.